Sajjad, the one. Then he says, قبور بكوفان وأخرى وقبر بأرض الجوزجان محله وقبر طفراتي. Then he narrates and he says, مريم قومي واندبي مولاكي. O Mary, stand up and wait over your Mawla. مريم قومي واندبي مولاكي وعلى الحسين فاسعدي. There's nobody left here. All of the Ahlul Bayt had perished. They say that on this morning, the morning of Ashura, Imam al-Hussein woke up, if he even slept, and he gave 4 sermons. In one of his sermons, he comes out wearing the imamah of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Wearing the abaya and the coat of the Prophet, riding a camel or a horse that belonged to the Prophet, carrying the sword of the Prophet. Then he says to them, Alastu ibn binti nabiyyikum. Why do you fight me? Alastu ibn binti nabiyyikum. فَوَاللَّهِ مَا بَيْنَ الْمَشْرِقِ وَالْمَغْرِبِ. By Allah, there is no one between the sunrise and the sunset. ابن بنت نبي غيري فيكم ولا في غيركم. Other than me within you or within any other nation. They said they had no answer for him, so they started showering him with arrows. He returned. When he returned, he was crying. Zainab comes to him and she says, Ya Hussein, why do you cry? Why do you weep? He says, Zainab, they will all go to hell because of me. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. They want to kill him and he's concerned with who of them will go to hell and who of them will not. However, after the Ashab gave their eulogies and after the Ahlul Bayt gave their sermons, my apologies, not eulogies, their sermons, they began fighting. How did they begin fighting? Umar ibn Sa'd alayhi la'natullah. He fired an arrow and he says, you guys are my witnesses that I want you guys to testify that I am the first who has fired an arrow, who started the war, so that I might receive a reward from Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad. Then the rest of the army began firing their arrows. Imam al-Hussein looks at his companions and he says, Qumu yarhamkumullah. Stand up, may Allah have mercy upon you. Stand up and meet your end. These are the arrows of the enemy, a message to you that the war has begun. They say the army of Imam al-Hussein charged and they met with the army of Yazid. After the clash and the dust settled, 50 of the Imam's companions have passed. They say at that point the Ansar, the companions of the Imam, began fighting 1-on-1, 2-on-2. So they would not go out in a platoon form. They would only go out 1 or 2 at a time. That way they could have a chance of defeating more. That way that would be called mubaraza, meaning they would only meet 1 or 2 individuals from the other, so they had a better chance. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. We see in the narrations, the maqtal is long, brothers and sisters. The maqtal is long and we don't have time. We have approximately half an hour and I apologize for my health. However, they say that the companions of the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, they went out facing. The first ones, as we said, all fell. Then the renowned companions, those are the ones that we usually go to, the renowned companions. People such as Muslim ibn Awsaj alayhi salam. They say Amr ibn al-Hajjaj attacked from the side of the river, fighting for a while. This engagement involved Muslim ibn Awsaj and a number of other companions of the Imam. However, they kicked up the sand. They could not see anybody. But when they could not see anybody, after the dust settled, they saw Muslim ibn Awsaj taking his final breath. Habib ibn Mudahir, who was a friend, the best friend of Muslim in Kufa, came with Imam Hussein. And they saw him breathing his last final breaths. Imam Hussein saying, "O Muslim, I congratulate you. May Allah have mercy upon you. May Allah shower you with His mercy." He thanked the Imam with a very weak voice. Then Habib came to him and he says, "Ya Muslim, it is dear to me that I see you in this situation. And had I not known that I would follow you in your footsteps, I want you to tell me what your will would be." They say he answered him in a very soft voice, in a whispering voice almost. He said to him, "Ya Habib, أوصيك بهذا الغريب خيرا." "Oh Habib, my will to you is that you stay with this stranger. You stay with this individual who's a stranger in this land. That you fight in his stead, that you sacrifice in his stead." He says, "O Muslim, لأقرنك عينا." I will do my best to be on your side, to follow you in this point. They narrate that the Imam, when he saw this, he recited the very well-known verse, time of Zawal. Time of Zawal is namaz, is Salatul Dhuhr. They say that at the time of the Zawal, Abu Thammam came to the Imam. He looked at the Imam and he said, "Yabna Rasulullah, may I be sacrificed in your stead. I see that you are surrounded by the enemy, and no harm shall come to you while I am alive. And I know that I will die soon. However, I would like to have prayed this salat before meeting Allah." The Imam looks and he says, "Yes, you are correct. This is the beginning of the time. May Allah make you one of those who pray, who are constantly reminded of Him, who constantly remember Him." They say he told them, he says, "Kuffu anna," tell them to stay away from us, to let us pray. Al-Husayn ibn Numayr alayhi la'natullah, he says, "Ya Husayn, why do you pray? Your prayer is not accepted." Al-Hurr ibn Habib ibn Madahir al-Asadi, my apologies, Habib ibn Madahir, he says, "Oh, you who is a donkey, you say that the Imam's prayer is not accepted and yours is?" They charged at each other. Brothers and sisters, Habib ibn Madahir was 70 plus years old. Habib ibn Madahir, as we said when we remembered him a few nights back, Habib ibn Madahir was the companion of the Imam alayhi salatu wassalam, Amir al-Mu'mineen, and a companion of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. And he died with Imam al-Husayn bi abi wa ummi. They say Habib charged at him and he charged at Habib. Habib struck the face of the horse that Hussein was riding, causing Hussein to be thrown off of the horse. They say his people came, his army came and rescued him. However, they charged at Habib. They fought with Habib. In some narrations, they say Habib killed as many as 60 people from the enemy. As many as 60 individuals. Habib ibn Madahir, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi, salamullahi alayhi, they could not face him one-on-one. So what did they started doing? They started stabbing him in the back. One man stabbed him in the thigh. Another man with a spear stabbed him in his side. They say when he fell to the ground, he went to get up and the coward had returned. Al-Husayn, he had returned and he struck Habib on his head. Then they beheaded him. They say when Imam al-Husayn saw this, he was overtaken by the emotion. Habib ibn Madahir, the Imam used to call him Ya Am, oh my uncle. That was the position of Habib ibn Madahir. Imagine 70 years old. They say the Imam, when he looked at this, he said, "Wa qillata nasira," oh how few supporters I have. After the death of the companions, and I'm sorry we're rushing through this, came the role of the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. They say that the first one that presented himself was Ali al-Akbar bi abi wa ummi. They say Ali al-Akbar alayhi salam, when he wanted to go into battle, the Imam refused. In the beginning, the Imam refused. And he said, Ya Aba Abdullah, oh my Mawla, oh Aba Abdullah, I cannot bear to stay like this. Allow me to leave. They say the Imam hugged him and they both wept. When the women saw that, they surrounded Ali al-Akbar, saying, "Oh Ali, do not leave us. Oh Ali, what will happen to us after you leave?" Ali al-Akbar was 27 years old. Only a few years between him and Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas. Ali al-Akbar rode into battle. When he rode into battle, in some narrations, they say his mother Layla was present. She was looking at Imam Hussein as Imam Hussein was following his son. His eyes were following the other Ali al-Akbar. They say all of a sudden she saw his face changed. She said, Aba Abdullah, hal usiba waladi bishay. قال لها لا يا ليلى ولكن برز إليه من يخاف منه عليه. However, an individual has presented himself, has challenged him, who I fear for him. He said, then ادعي لولدك فقد سمعت جدي رسول الله يقول دعاء الأم مستجاب في حق ولدها. She went to her tent. They say she raised her hands and she says, يا من رد يوسف إلى يعقوب رد إلي ولدي. O you who has returned Joseph to Jacob, return to me my son. It wasn't but not a few moments until Ali al-Akbar returned. That was the first time. He went to his mother. He said before he went to his mother, he said to his father, Father, I am thirsty. The thirst has weakened me, and the weight of the sword has taken its toll on me. Father, is there a way that I can get a drink of water? Imam Hussein, he says to him, Son, my son, if I am in the same position as you are, if you were to see my tongue, it is just as dry as yours. But fear not, Ya Ali, in but a few moments you will drink from the cup of your grandfather, a drink that you will never go thirsty after. Then he rode back into battle the second time. However, the second time he was surrounded by the enemy. The second time the Imam alayhi salam, he says, Allahumma ashhad ala ha'ula'i al-qawm. Oh Allah, bear witness upon these people. فَقَدْ بَرَزَ إِلَيْهِمْ. For they have been challenged by a man, or a man has come to meet them, who resembled your Prophet in his mannerisms, in his behavior, in his looks, in his way, in every way. He resembled the Prophet. And when we missed looking at your Prophet, we would look at the son. Then he said to Umar ibn Sa'd, قَطَعَ اللَّهُ رَحِمَكَ. May Allah end your lineage, just as you're about to kill my son and end mine. Brothers and sisters, Umar ibn Sa'd has no lineage as a result of the dua of the Imam. They say as Ali al-Akbar was fighting, he was struck on his head. A strike that caused him to bleed. So what he do? He ended up hugging the horse. As he's hugging the horse started running. However, it ran in the opposite direction. It didn't run back to the tent because it was being struck by the enemy. And that every time an individual, the Imam rode by, or Ali al-Akbar rode by an individual, they would strike him with the sword. They say there is multiple narrations of how the Imam treated this situation, of how the Imam dealt with this situation. They say when he was finally struck, when he fell off the horse, he says, Aba ya Hussein, alayka minni salam. He says at that point, in one narration it says when the Imam heard this, he turned his back to the voice and then he sat down. So Qaeda says, Abba, why aren't you leaving? He stood up and then he sat back down. Then he stood up and he took a couple of steps in the opposite direction. She said to him, Abba, the voice is coming from the opposite side. He says, Bunayya, Bala, I know where the voice is coming from. Bunayya, forgive me. They say he rode into battle. When he rode after his son, he got close to his son. Upon coming close to his son, they said he removed his foot from the spurs. And then he jumped, he threw himself off of the saddle of the horse. When he landed next to his son, he looked at his son. His son was covered in his blood. He said to him, Bunayya Ali, ala dunya ba'daka al-afa. Oh my son Ali, after you, this life is worthless. Bunayya Ali, ala dunya ba'daka al-afa. أما أنت فقد استرحت من هم الدنيا وغمها وأبقيت أباك إلى همها وغمها. You have sought peace. There is no more trials and tribulations for you. However, you have left your father to the trials and tribulations. They say with his final breath, Ali al-Akbar says, Abba ya Hussein, this is my grandfather. He has given me a drink of water. And he says, Ya Hussein, hurry, ajjal, ajjal, we miss you. Inna mushtaquna ilayk. And then he turned around and he began to cry. So the Imam said to him, my son, why do you cry? He says, Abba ya Hussein, Abba ya Hussein, this is Fatima next to me, looking at you with her hand on her rib, covering her rib, standing up and sitting down, looking at you and weeping, Ya Hussein. They say when Ali al-Akbar took his final breath, the Imam stood up. The Imam stood up and he said to Bani Hashim, Halummu wahmilu Aliyya. Oh my sons, oh my cousins, come and carry your brother. When the narrators ask why couldn't he carry his son, they say he couldn't carry his son because every time he carried a part, another part would fall. He was chopped up. So they literally brought a mat and carried him on a mat. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Brothers and sisters, we will go right up to the Qamar Bani Hashim. Bi Abi wa Ummi Qamar Bani Hashim. After the companions and the Ahlul Bayt all passed. All Imam al-Hussein. But Abbas was next to the Imam. The Imam felt like he had an army by his side. The thirst. So he came to Imam al-Hussein and he says, Abba Abdullah, I can't take this anymore. He says, if this is the case, then go and get water for the children. They said, Abbas, when he came, there was on the shore 4,000 men. He pushed them off and he entered the water. When he wanted to drink, he remembered Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. So he said, Ya nafsu min ba'd al-Hussein, on death's door, and you drink cold water? By God, this is not the action of my faith, nor the action towards the palm tree avenue. I will forever defend my faith. And an Imam who was truthful and full of certainty, the grandson of the purified, trusted one. They said then he was struck on his left arm. When he was struck on his left arm, he called out, لَقَدْ قَطَعُوا بِبَغْيِهِمْ يَسَارِ فَأَصْلِهِمْ يَا رَبْ حَرَّ النَّارِ يَا نَفْسُ لَا تَخْشَيْ مِنَ الْكُفَّارِ وَاسْتَبْشِرِي بِرَحْمَةِ الْجَبَّارِ. He says, they have cut through their treachery in my left arm. O Allah, make them taste the hellfire. O self, do not fear the evil and the enemy, and rejoice in the mercy of Allah. Then they showered him with arrows, brothers and sisters. They say that one arrow struck him in the throat, while another struck him in the mouth, and a third struck him in one of his eyes, and the last one struck the water bag. He says, they say when Al-Abbas saw that the water has spilled, he stopped, pondering what to do. He has no hands to fill the water jug, and he has no hands to fight the enemy. He cannot see. What does he do as he's pondering? They say Al-La'in came up from behind him and struck him on the back of the head with a metal pole. When he felt the metal pole, he called out, أخي يا حسين عليك مني السلام أبا عبد الله. When Imam Hussein heard this voice, they say he charged at the enemy. He charged at the enemy. However, they say when he got to Al-Abbas, Al-Abbas couldn't see because one eye had an arrow in it and the other eye, the blood had dried in it. Al-Abbas couldn't hear from the hit to the back of his head. Al-Abbas had no arms. He couldn't fight. Al-Abbas was struck and was stabbed and was wounded. They say Al-Hussein alayhi salam, when he came next to his brother felt a movement. So he said to him, Ya hada uqsimu alayka biman ta'bud illa ma amhaltani fawaqna. Oh you, whoever you are, I ask you by whatever God you worship that you give me but one moment. حتى يأتي إلي ابن والدي أقبله ويقبلني وأشمه ويشمني. So that my father's son, my brother from my father, would come to me. I would smell him and he would smell me, and I would kiss him and he would kiss me. They say Al-Abbas knew it was Hussein because Al-Hussein had kissed him and put him in his lap. Then he wanted to carry him. When he wanted to carry him, Al-Abbas called Aba Abdullah, where do you want? Where are you taking me? Aba Abdullah, leave me here. Aba Abdullah, I don't want Sukaina and Zainab to see me in this position. They say when Al-Hussein left him and returned, when he returned, he was met by Sukaina. Sukaina said, Aba ya Hussein, Ayna rafiquka ya Aba Abdullah? Where is your companion? Where is the one that was like a shadow to you, ya Aba Abdullah? Where is the one that was constantly by your side, ya Hussein? They say he didn't answer. Rather, he walked into the khayma of Al-Abbas, and he took down the main pole. They say when Zainab saw this, she called out, Aywa Abbasa, Aywa Akha, Aywa Day'atana Ba'dak. They say the Imam then answered her and he says, yes, Wa Abbas, oh my brother, oh how lost we are after you, Ya Abbas. They say Abbas alayhi salam, when Imam Zain al-Abidin came to bury him, he started looking for his hands. He bent over and he took out one hand and kissed it. Then he removed the other hand and kissed it. That was the first individual. Before him was Imam Hussein. They say when Al-Abbas fell, Imam Hussein came and gathered the hands of Al-Abbas and kissed both of them. And before that, Ali ibn Abi Talib. Ali ibn Abi Talib, when Al-Abbas was born, he carried him and he kissed both of his hands. Al-Banin says, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, is there something wrong with my son? Why are you crying and kissing his hands? He says, Ya Al-Banin, Ya Fatima, know that these hands are hands that will be lopped off in service of Hussein. In some narrations, some of our scholars, they say that on Judgment Day, Fatima to Zahra alayha salam, she will stand in the mahshar and she will bring out the hands of Al-Abbas and she would say, oh Allah, judge between me and those who cut these hands. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Brothers, then came the time of Al-Husayn ibn Ali, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. Salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Al-Imam al-Husayn, when he wanted to ride into battle, they say he rode into the battle the first time by himself. He got close to the water, then he went into the water. When he went into the water, he took a amount of water in his hand to drink. He looked at his horse and then he said to his horse, your horse, Ana atshan wa anta atshan. I'm thirsty and you're thirsty. O horse, I shall not drink unless you drink. They say the horse removed his head as if it understood the Imam. However, when the Imam wanted to drink, Al-Ain said, O Hussein, are you enjoying water while your women are being attacked? They say the Imam al-Hussein left the water, didn't drink, and he rode towards his camp. He got to his camp, the camp was fine. They say that when he got to the camp, he was met by Zainab. Zainab, who was his partner from the beginning, who was with him, who supported him from the beginning, and the women. As talking to the women, Umar ibn Sa'd, he says, Wayhakum, attack him now while he's busy with his family and his women. When they attacked him, they said the arrows penetrated some of the women's clothes. So they began to scream and ran into the tents. Imam Hussein rode into battle. However, he heard a voice calling out, saying, Na'am ya Hussein, qifli hunayya. Oh my uncle, oh Hussein, stop for one moment. They say Al-Hussein alayhi salam stopped. Turned out it was one of the daughters of the sons of Muslim ibn Aqil, of Aqil, sorry. He carried her onto the horse. He says, Bunayya, what do you need? She says, Ya am, laqad bakkara abi wa ammi ila al-ma. My father and my uncle from the morning they went to the water. Oh my uncle, they still haven't come back. Ya am, I know they did not leave me behind. However, can you take me to them? He says, Bunayya, where are your parents? Where is your father and your uncle? They have went on a long trip. She says, Ya Am, can you bring me water? He says, no, Bunayya, I will not come back. She says, Ya Am, if you won't come back and you can't bring water, take me and I will come back. He says, oh Bunayya, if I take you, who will bring you back? They say he lowered her and he said, Zainab, take her. As he was about to ride, Zainab called on to him. She says, Akhiya Hussein, come down from your horse. Akhiya Hussein, reveal your chest. He revealed his chest. She smelt him in his chest and kissed him in his throat. Then he says, Ya Ummah, Ya Fatima, your trust has been returned and my oath has been fulfilled. Then he rode into battle. They say when he rode into battle, he would chase them and they would run. He would chase them and they would run until he got tired. When he got tired, brothers and sisters, they say he stood for a second to rest, and a la'in struck him with a stone on his forehead, and another la'in struck him with an arrow in his mouth. So he stopped. He wanted to wipe the blood from his face. Brothers and sisters, Al-Hussein did not have any body armor. Al-Hussein knew his end. He knew what would happen. So they say when he lifted his shirt to wipe the blood off of his face, حَرْمَلَ عَلَيْهِ لَعْنَةُ struck him with an arrow that had 3 points. Struck him with an arrow that had 3 points that penetrated his heart. When he felt that, he said, Bismillah wa billah wa ala millati Rasulillah wa la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. He wanted to extract the arrow, he could not. So what did he do? They say he leaned against the saddle of his horse and he pushed the arrow through the back. Imam al-Baqir, he says, فَوَاللَّهِ مَا خَرَجَ السَّهْمُ. By Allah, the arrow did not leave until it had parts, without it having parts of the heart of my grandfather. They say Al-Hussein at that point fell from the horse. He fell from the horse, so the enemy came, started showering him with arrows and with spears. They say what he did is he created a little mount of sand so that he can lean against it. At that moment, he saw the army charge towards the camp. So he said, وَيْحَكُمْ يَا شِيعَةَ آلْ أَبِي سُفْيَانَ, O you, the Shia of Abu Sufyan and his family, if you had no fear of the hereafter, be free men in this world. If you are not true Muslims, at least be free in this world. So Shimr answered him, he says, what do you want, O son of Ali? He says, as long as I'm alive, don't let your goons get close to my family. He says, Leka hada, that is yours. Then they turned on him. They say that everyone that came by him, one would strike him with a stone, and another with an arrow, and another would strike him with a spear, and another with a sword, and another with a dagger. They say until his body looked like a porcupine. Then Zainab, salamullahi alayha, in the camp, they said, she heard the women say, why can't we hear Hussein? Maybe the men got between us and him. Zainab said, Hasha libni ummi. There's no way that my mother's son, horses and men can get between him and us. When she looked out, she saw a redness in the sky. She came to Imam Zain al-Abidin. She said, Ya Zain al-Abidin, what do I see? He says, Ya Zainab, remove the tent, remove the corner of the tent. Then he said, Amma Zainab, alaykunna bil firar. Oh Amma, start running. Start fleeing, Ya Amma Zainab. فهذا رأس والدي الحسين على رمح طويل. This is the head of Hussein on a long spear. Brothers and sisters, they say Shimr, when he came to Hussein, he kicked him and he insulted the Imam and he insulted Amir al-Mu'mineen. Then he grabbed onto the beard of Hussein and he wanted to behead him. Imam Hussein, he said to him, I have a request of you. Show me your face. So he removed the cover on his face. The Imam smiled. He says, why do you smile, O son of Ali? He says, Sadaqa Rasulullah. He told me I will be killed by a man who was spotted, who resembled a dog. They say Shimr got angry. So he says, I will kill you in a way that has never been killed. He threw him on his stomach, bi abi wa ummi. Then he struck him on the back of the neck 12 times. Brothers and sisters, There are no veins. The main arteries through the front of the neck. From the back of the neck, the Imam didn't die right away. The Imam took long to die. He struck him in the back of the neck 12 or 16 times. However, when they removed the head of Imam al-Hussein, was that enough? That wasn't enough. They came to the Imam. A la'in took his shirt. Another la'in took his slipper. Another la'in went after his trousers. Another la'in went after the ring that he wore in his pinky. They say the blood was dried on that pinky. He couldn't remove it. So he took the sword and he cut the pinky of Imam al-Hussein to take that little ring. They say then the last la'in came and he wanted to take the underwear from Imam Hussein. Brothers and sisters, I'm sure not many people know this narration. However, it's a narration that's in our books. They say that when this la'in came and wanted to remove the underwear of the Imam, they say the Imam, a beheaded figure, put his right hand on the cover to stop this la'in from removing it. They say this la'in stopped, then he chopped off the hand of the Imam. He went to remove the cover one more time. Then the right hand covered it. He chopped off then the left hand covered it. He chopped off the left hand. When he wanted to touch the clothes one more time, he fainted. He said, I saw a flash of light. Then I saw Hussein standing in front of Fatima. And he says, Ya Ummah, Ya Zahra, this la'in just cut my right and my left hand, Ya Zahra. This other la'in took off my pinky, oh mother. This la'in removed my head, Ya Zahra. They say at that point, when Imam Zainul Abidin, he told the women, run. The women ran. But where will they go? Umar ibn Sa'd, he says, أحرقوا ديار الظالمين. He called the Ahlul Bayt Zalimin. He says, burn their houses. They say Zainab looked at him and she says, وَيْحَكَ يَا عُمَرْ أَيُقْتَلُ حُسَيْنًا. Hussein is killed and you're watching. They say he looked at her and he turned around and he said to his horses, run over him. That's why the poet says, ما لذ عيش بعد ربك بالجياد الأعوجية. They had specific horses. What is known in North America as draft horses. Heavy, powerful horses that ran over. They say when they ran over the body of the Imam, the women could hear the cracking of the ribs of the Imam. بِأَبِي وَأُمِّي. Was that enough? That wasn't enough. They say that they left the Imam in that situation for 3 days. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا على محمد أي منقلب ينقلبون. والعاقبة للمتقين. Brothers and sisters, I apologize for the short maqtal and I apologize for falling short with this maqtal. Unfortunately, I had a medical incident and I apologize to you, brothers and sisters. Please remember me and my parents and my family in your dua. Please remember your brothers and sisters in your dua. This is a day of mourning. This is the day of Al-Imam alayhi salatu wassalam. I ask you to remember me and my family in your dua, and I will do the same. اللهم بحق الحسين الوجيه وجده وأبيه وأمه وأخيه والتسعة المعصومين من بنيه فرج عنا يا الله. اقض حواجنا شافي مرضانا تقبل أعمالنا. إخواني من أوصاني الدعاء وإلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات رحم الله من قرأ الفاتحة مسبوقة بالصلاة على محمد وآل محمد.